bringing you the latest Arizona high school football recruiting news year-round. This is the Recruiting Roundup on ProsToPreps.com.
Welcome back in. I'm Jared Cohen. This is Jason Jewell. We are the Recruiting Roundup, and it's hard to believe we're already through a month of the high school football season. Guys putting up some crazy numbers, big matchups this week. We're going to get into all of that. First, we bring you the recruiting news and a big recruiting tidbit at that. Kalen Dabowski, South Point wide receiver, they're having a great season. He just picked up a new Pac-12 offer.
Yeah, it was offered by Colorado. Add that to schools that are already in the mix. He's going to trip to Oklahoma State. U of A is in there, as well as West Virginia. He's having a great year. Like you mentioned, I imagine that he'll get a few more offers as well.
So as mentioned, more about South Point and Marcos playing this weekend in Tucson. We'll get to that in a minute. The other recruiting news to get to, CDO again in Tucson, John Jackson, he picked up another offer from a school.
Yeah, their big defensive end was offered a gray shirt offer by San Diego State. He's also been offered by Wyoming, by New Mexico State, and by North Dakota State.
And Jason, tell us a little bit, what is a gray shirt offer? What does that mean?
A gray shirt means that the player is going to delay his enrollment. He's not going to join his class in August. He's going to wait till the spring, till January to enroll. It means their clock will never start. They can go part-time in school and get ahead a little bit in school, as well as physically mature a little bit.
And we've seen some players from in-state actually do that at San Diego State before.
Right. Antonio Rosales, the big offensive tackle out of Tucson High, is doing that currently. And then Dwayne Garrett, the running back out of Chaparral, did that a few years ago, and he's seen a lot of playing time right now for SDSU.
So there's some of the latest news from a recruiting standpoint around Arizona. Let's get into what's been going on the field here in Arizona for high school football. Our Recruiting Roundup Player of the Week. We've had some great performances throughout the season. In week one, we saw Wesley Payne have a big monster game against Bishop Gorman, where Mountain Point came away with the victory. Week one, technically, Bryce Perkins put himself on the map for Chandler against Centennial. And then the last 2 weeks has been the Josh Eckley show. Has had huge weeks against both Chaparral and also another game after that. He's been putting up some monster numbers. But this week, Jason, we're going to talk about a guy that going into the last week had 17 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions and had an even bigger week last week for Desert Edge, their new quarterback, Anthony Hernandez.
I was at this game and was very, very impressed. Anthony is small in stature, but he puts up big numbers. He had over 400 yards against Shadow Ridge in their big-time win and threw 8 touchdowns. 5 of those scores went to their big-time receiver, Elijah Marks. I was very impressed with Hernandez.
And Elijah Marks actually is the nation's leading receiver. How about that?
He has over 1,000 receiving yards again and caught 5 touchdowns last week. Crazy.
So those two just becoming one of the biggest dynamic duos in the state. Another dynamic duo comes from Horizon High School, and last week, the big week against Paradise Valley, Luke Quinn had a big game.
Yeah, he went off. He had over 300 yards of total offense and 6 touchdowns.
6 touchdowns in the game, and their quarterback, Dalton Sneed, had over 400 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. This is a Horizon team that's taken on Desert Mountain this week. This could be a much, much bigger, closer game than I think a lot of people are expecting.
Yeah, I was at Horizon's game against PV. I was very, very impressed. They're salty on defense. They run around and they smack people, and I think they're going to be good for the next 2 years because they have a bunch of quality underclassmen.
Yeah, this is a Horizon team that almost beat Marcos Deniza the first week of the season. The next guy to get to, we talk about Mountain Point and Hamilton. We're going to get that into a bit, but last week Mountain Point had a running back really step up big for them in that big game against Chandler.
Yeah, their star, Wesley Payne, goes down with a dislocated elbow. Brandon Leonard comes in, rushes for 180 yards and 3 touchdowns in a big stage against Chandler High.
Yeah, Brandon Leonard's a guy that Coach Vaughn mentioned that he's expect to have a big season. He missed most of last season because of a concussion. Saguaro has so many playmakers that we talk about all the time. Luke Rebenzer, Christian Kirk, JT Nettleton, but there was a guy, people forget Saguaro's a great team top to bottom. They're not just top heavy, and they had a guy step up for them huge last week on both ends of the football.
Yeah, they're all section tight end. Brett Adams caught 2 touchdown passes. Also, on defense, had 2 interceptions. He took one of those back to the house.
And finally, the last player to get to, Tempe High School, having a fantastic season, and their receiver, Messiah Smith, had a huge week.
Yeah, 156 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's having a great year, one of the East Valley's leading receivers. And his quarterback, Emmanuel Gant, just going off, threw for 400 yards last week as well.
Lots of playmakers on the football field for Tempe. We'll see how that continues to unfold throughout the season. Let's look ahead to this week, week 5, or 4 now, I guess I should say. No, it is week 5. It's week 5, right?
0 week counts.
With 0 week, I just get so confused. Huge, huge matchup that we cannot let slip through our fingertips. The rematch of the state title game and also a rematch of a big game from last season in which Mountain Point beat Hamilton. Hamilton got redemption in the state championship game. This game is going to see a lot of injured players that aren't going to be on the field, but there will still be a big battle in the trenches that we're going to keep a close eye on.
Yeah, I'm going to be at this game. I'm looking forward to seeing the young pup, Garrett Rand, the D tackle at Hamilton, facing off against the big monster offensive guard, senior Natrell Curtis. These are two kids that are competing against each other right now, but could eventually be teammates later on a few years down the road. Rand already has an offer from Arizona State, and Curtis is considering ASU as being his school of choice.
Should be a lot of fun, but we mentioned a lot of injuries. Wesley Payne will be out for Mountain Point. For Hamilton, Casey Tucker, Santana Sterling, just a few names that will be out. So it'll be just a fraction of what this game could be capable of, but with all the talent still on the field, it should be a great one. The other game to get to down in Tucson, we mentioned already Sal Point, Kalen Dubowski picked up an offer. They're taking on Marcos Teniza, and when you look at this matchup, you look at the quarterbacks involved, and if you want to talk about a Player of the Year candidate to this point so far, it's been Josh Eckley from Marcos Teniza.
Josh Eckley's absolutely gone off. This is a time where I wish I could be at two games at once. I want to be down in Tucson at this game and see Eckley. He's a kid. I'm still shocked doesn't have an offer. He's totaling over 400 yards and 5 touchdowns every single week. Let's see what he does against a very good Sal Point team.
And then on the other side of the football, Andy Cota is the starting quarterback for Sal Point, another guy that's kind of under the radar without any offers, but he has led this team for a couple seasons now, and they're expecting big things this season.
Yeah, missed a little bit of time last year. Now has come back. He's come back with a vengeance. He is playing great football right now. Has Sal Point undefeated. They're playing really, really well. This is a huge matchup in Division II football.
So the quarterbacks facing off just tells part of the story of what this game should be capable of. A lot of people think Sal Point is the team to beat in Division II, but Marcos, who's already beaten Chaparral this season, wants to make a statement with a win in Tucson. That is it for the Recruiting Roundup this week. Thanks for joining us. We'll have all the latest that comes down from these great games that we mentioned, plus the latest in recruiting, which we do each and every week, 365 days out of the season. Jason Jewell, Jared Cohen, I'm going to get out of here before I screw up any more. Thanks for joining us on the Recruiting Roundup on pros2preps.com.